devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Prasanthi Mataji, when you're ready, you can start, Mataji. I'll share my screen.
Yes, sure. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All the Prabhupada and Gurudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraye Ashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation. Text 1. Maitreya continued. After the departure of her parents, the chaste woman Devahuti, who could understand the desire of her husband, served him constantly with great love, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Text 2. O Vidura, Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the senses, with love and with sweet words. Text 3. Working sanely and diligently, she pleased her very powerful husband, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. Text 4 to 5. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than Providence. Thus, she expected great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. Text 6. Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Text 7. Kardama Muni continued, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not yet experienced these active achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I am giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are. Text 8. Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? All material achievements are subject to be annihilated simply by a movement of the embrace of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy transcendental gifts very rarely obtained by persons proud of aristocracy and material possessions. Text 9. Upon hearing the speaking of her husband, who excelled in knowledge of all kinds of transcendental science, innocent Devahuti was very satisfied. Her smiling face shining with a slightly bashful glance, she spoke in a choked voice because of great humility and love. Text 10. Sri Devahuti said, my dear husband, O best of Brahmanas, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all the infallible mystic powers. Because you are under the protection of Yogamaya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that your bodily union should now fulfill, since children are the great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. Text 11. Devahuti continued, my dear Lord, I am struck by excited emotion for you. Therefore, kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose. Text word. Maitreya continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prashant Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, when you're ready, can start, Prabhuji. Chandra Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Dharma Pranam, please accept my humble obeisances, all devotees. Thank you so much, Prasanti Mataji, for reading. Thank you, Sundara and Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity to learn. I'm going to start by offering my prayers. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pushtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisheshum Nivadi Paschat Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate kirim yat kripatam ham bande Shri Gurute Nataram. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Today we're going to discuss a wonderful part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, reading from the 23rd chapter, which is titled Lamentation of Devahuti. So just to give you a little bit of background, what we discussed previously in the past week was how after being instructed by Brahma to bring on good progeny into the world, Kardama Muni goes into meditation, and through his wonderful devotional services, he pleases Lord Vishnu, who appears before him, and he tells him that Swayambhuva Manu is going to soon come and arrive with his daughter Devahuti, whom he should go and accept as his wife. And then we see in the previous chapter how Swayambhuva Manu presents himself. They have a wonderful discussion between the two wonderful devotees. And at the end, he gives the hand of his daughter Devahuti in marriage to Kardama Muni. So now, starting from this, Prabhuji, may I share the screen?
Yes, Prabhu, yeah, you have privilege also co-host. Yeah.
So in this particular chapter, there's a wonderful description given of Grihastha Ashram and household life. It will be a little sensitive topic, so please excuse me if I transgress anything. And I hope I don't get into trouble. So in this, the first shloka, Maitreya Muni continues and states that after the departure of her parents, when Mother Devahuti was beginning her grihast life with Kardama Muni, she wonderfully served her husband, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. In the purport, Prabhupada explains how why the comparison to Bhavani is given. So Bhavani is Mother Parvati, and she is the wife of Bhava, that is Lord Shiva. So even in their relationship between Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati came from a very aristocratic background. But still, she chose her husband to be as Lord Shiva, who, for all material purposes, was living very simply and just didn't even have a proper home, living under the trees, wearing simple clothes. But the reason she chose him as her husband was because of her devotion, his wonderful devotional qualities, and his devotion to Lord Ram. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Lord Shiva would always chant the names of Lord Ram. And that is why there is a tradition that in a lot of Vedic Indian families who follow Vedic culture, a lot of times young girls are recommended to worship Lord Shiva, not so that they can get a husband who's rich, who's good looking, who has a good job, but so that the husband has good devotional qualities and is a wonderful devotee. By serving them and by participating in the association, even ladies can advance in spiritual life. In the last part of this purport, Prabhupada says a wonderful statement, which I'd like to delve on a little bit more. This reciprocation of service and love between husband and wife is the ideal of a householder's wife. So just looking at some aspects of Grihast Ashram, um, Prabhupada describes in this that the relationship between a husband and wife should be based on service and love. But oftentimes we find today in today's material world, the relationship is based more on sense gratification and liking. We don't often like to think it that way, but if you delve deeply and look deeper into the consciousness, that's what it arises from. A wonderful sort of analogy or story comes to my mind. Once somebody had asked Lord Buddha that what is the difference between like and love? And Lord Buddha had replied, saying that when you like a flower, you pluck it and you use it to enhance your own beauty. When you love a flower, then you water it and nurture it and let it grow and become more beautiful with each day. In similar lines, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami had quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Atmendra Priti Vancha Tare Bole Kam, Krishnendra Priti Ichha Dhare Premanam. That desire to satisfy our own senses is lust, but desire to satisfy Krishna's senses, that is real love. So when we talk about love between husband and wife, it is the coming of two individuals who desire to please Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because oftentimes in a grihast ashram, in a household life, there can be two power centers at home. Right? They'll have my sense gratification, and the other individual will have their own sense gratification. And if my sense gratification is not fulfilled, then people cannot stay with one another person. But instead of that, when we come together as grihastha but we keep Krishna in the center, and everything that we do is to please Krishna. We look upon our partner as a devotee of Krishna. We speak to them nicely, we take care of them, knowing that if we hurt them, by words or by any means, Krishna will be displeased with us. So in that sense, if we have that maintain that relationship with our partner, keeping Krishna as the center, that is the success of a grihast life. In India, there's an example that's given in India. Oftentimes, when cows are left to herd or graze in the fields, oftentimes what the cowherd people will do is they'll put a big stick or a pole, and they'll tie all the cows to that particular one pole. So because all the cows are tied to that one pole, they will they will invariably not be able to completely wander away, but they'll all come back because they all have one particular center. So similar way in Grihast Ashram, our center should be to please Lord Krishna. Now, when I'm going to talk about this in the next few shlokas, when I heard from His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, he actually had he shared another perspective to this particular shlokas. So as I talk about each of these shlokas, I want you to keep in mind that there's going to be a parallel perspective we'll talk about. So what he says that what brahmachari or a sannyasi, why are we talking about grihast life in Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavatam is Amal Puran. So what can a sannyasi or a brahmachari realize or understand from this relationship of Mother Devahuti and Kardamba Muni? So he goes on to describe that actually this is also a depiction of a relationship between a disciple and a guru. So the same way, the wonderful qualities that Mother Devahuti is going to exhibit in the next few shlokas, those qualities are also expected to be exhibited by a disciple towards his guru. So in this particular shloka, it is stated that how, even though Mother Bhavani or Mother Devahuti, they came from such aristocratic backgrounds, but they very, very menially adjusted to their husbands and they served them well. So similarly, a disciple may accept a guru, and they may have completely different backgrounds. Disciple may have maybe financially, in terms of education, may have lots of different qualities, and which the guru may not have. But the reason to accept a guru is to accept spiritual life. So just as Mother Devahuti accepts Kardama Muni, similarly a disciple should accept guru and not not let his aristocratic background come in way. One example of this in our esteemed parampara is of His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. So he was a very erudite scholar. Some of his works, if you try to read, even now, I'm not personally, I'm not able to read that good English the way he describes in the special translation of Brahma Samhita. But he accepted Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj as his guru, who for all practical purposes and material calculations was illiterate and not very qualified in material education. But he knew that through Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj instruction, he can quickly advance in spiritual life, and he surrendered his life unto him and accepted him as his guru. That's the first attribute that we see. In the second shloka, Maitreya Muni goes on to describe how two important qualities were depicted by Mother Devahuti. In the purport, Prabhupada describes two words that are of significance here is Vishrambhena and Gauravena. Vishrambhena means Mother Devahuti served her husband with great intimacy. And Gauravena means she served him with great reverence, awe and reverence. So, in a relationship, in the Grihastha ashram, Prabhupada describes that the husband is a very intimate friend. Therefore, the wife must render service just like an intimate friend. Prabhupada also describes that here comes a clash of psychologies, because a man's psychology is very different from a woman's psychology. As constituted by bodily frame, man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman, as bodily constituted, is naturally inferior to her husband. So sometimes when we read this, especially for people who are not familiar with this topic, sometimes this question comes about is who is superior and who is inferior. Why is this relationship depicted in a certain way? But the truth of the matter is, how Prabhupada explains, it is just the psychology of those two personalities are very different, and we understand that psychology, and that's how we can proceed in a Grihastha ashram. I remember this was about 15 years ago when I was in my early 20s, and ISKCON Kolkata had a wonderful program where they would introduce topics of brahmacharya and grihast to young boys, just to give them some sort of an understanding of what ashram to accept as they go on in life. And I don't have any notes, but those points were so clear that I still remember them 16 years later very well. So they talk about the psychology of a man and a wife in that seminar, and they describe that usually there are two aspects of a psyche. There are different ways to look at it, but in this particular perspective, there's two aspects of a psyche. One is everybody has an intelligent quotient, and second is everybody has an emotional quotient. In a man's psyche, only one quotient or one switch can be on at that particular time. Either the intelligent quotient's on, then the emotional quotient's off. If the emotional quotient's on, the intelligent quotient's off. But for a woman, in a woman's psychology, they also have the same intelligent and emotional quotient, but their problem is neither of those two can be completely turned off. So they can, at any moment of time in their psyche, they'll always have an emotional component, even if they're intelligent. And even if they're emotional, they'll have an intelligent component as well. So both psyches actually have their advantage, disadvantage. For the male psyche, where there is, if the intelligent quotient is off and emotional quotient is on, a man can go to any limits and degrade himself and do any kinds of nonsensical activities. Because at that time, if he's so emotional, he's not able to think right and wrong. But at the same time, if his intelligent quotient's on and his emotional quotient's off, if he has to make tough decisions, he's able to do it without having a sort melting down and having an emotional aspect to it. That is why Prabhupada also said that usually with the male psyche, it is much easier to be a leader. Looking at the female psyche, because intelligence is never off, so however emotional they'll become, they'll always still have a sense of understanding of what is right and wrong. So that is why it is said that you may find when you go out on the streets a lot of men who are drunk and fallen and lying down on the ground. But hardly ever you'll find women in that situation because that intelligent quotient will always be there and they'll always be able to understand. But the disadvantage of that is that if they have to make a decision just based on intelligence, then that emotional quotient is always there and they might not be able to completely make that decision. And that's why Prabhupada also mentioned that, that sometimes Matajis were not in a position of leadership. That can be an issue. But there was this also controversy at one point of time in ISKCON about superiority and inferiority between the different genders. And I remember this very clearly when once one devotee had quoted this, that one Mataji at this time of this controversy had asked Prabhupada during a morning walk, that Prabhupada, I've heard other devotees say that if I am a Mataji, then I cannot go back home to Godhead because I'm inferior. And Prabhupada had very wittily replied that if you think you are a woman, then you will not go back to God. Understanding that our position is not about our body, but we are the Jivatma, the soul. So actually, and that is why when in this particular shloka, it is described how a woman or the Mataji humbly serves the spouse. Is actually the relationship of the Jivatma and Paramatma as well. Because the real Purush in this world or enjoyer in this world is Krishna. When speak in terms of Tattva, in terms of Tattva and Jivatma, we are the energy, but the energetic or the enjoyer is Sri Krishna. There's a story that Prabhupada also quotes with regards to this, that once upon a time, there was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, Mirabai. She had heard that Rupa Goswami was in Vrindavan and she wanted to have his audience and hear Krishna Katha from him. And she requested for that. And when Rupa Goswami received her request, he simply refused, saying that I do not interact with people from other gender, with Matajis. To this, Mirabai responded and said, I don't know who you're talking about. There's only one Purush I know in this world, and that is Krishna. And I don't know any other Purush in this world. And then Prabhupada says, then Rupa Goswami was very impressed with her response. And then she was allowed to participate in that event. So in similar way, how just based on the understanding in different psyches, how the women nicely serves the husband and serving not his senses, but serving him in coming close and advancing in spiritual life and Krishna consciousness. In a similar way, looking at the other parallel idea that we were discussing is about the guru and the disciple. The disciple also should serve his spiritual master or guru with intimacy and reverence. It should not be, Prabhupada quotes in purport, that familiarity breeds contempt. If you're with your guru, if you're sitting with your guru, if you're eating with your guru, you shouldn't start to think that the guru is an ordinary person, but he's actually the representative of Krishna. We should always maintain that awe and reverence towards our spiritual master. In the third shloka, again it says that working very sanely and diligently, Mother Devahuti pleased a powerful husband, and she gave up all these negative qualities of lust, pride, envy, greed. In the purport to this, Prabhupada explains that it is very important for Grihas ashram to get rid of all these negative qualities. Otherwise, it can make that situation very unstable. There are 4 kinds of enemies Prabhupada describes in this purport. The first is if the father in the household is ridden with debt. So if he's incurred lots and lots of debt, then that household is likely going to be unstable. If the mother of the household, in the presence of elderly sons, accepts another person as a husband, then that household also becomes unstable. In terms of a wife, if a wife speaks very harshly and unkindly towards the husband, and usually it is considered that wives have this quality of tolerance and magnanimity. But instead of that, if they clash, and there's a clash of the psyche, then that house also becomes very unstable. And if the son is the fool, then that family is also doomed. So there are these four things, because of four qualities that in a grihastha ashram we have to be careful of. Similarly, between a disciple and a guru, we have to make sure we give up all these qualities to be able to serve our guru well. In the next fourth and fifth shloka, it is described that how a wife, when she accepts a particular husband, she naturally molds himself to the interests and the ideas of the husband, and she, in that fashion, is able to serve him in a better way. Prabhupada gives the example of Mother Gandhari. In the Mahabharata, when Mother Gandhari knew that her husband, Dhritarashtra, was blind, she also covered herself, covered her eyes, and with her eyes covered, she brought herself to the same state as her husband, so that she could understand him and serve him in a better way. In this particular shloka, now, so far we've discussed a lot about the Matajis and what the wives how wonderfully they should serve the husband, understanding the differences in psychology. But in this particular shloka, now we also see the other part of it, that it says that seeing her condition, Kardama Muni, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke in a voice choked with great love. So even for Prabhujis, when they're in this ashram, they have to understand that they have to take care of their better halves as well. So because he was compassionate, he could understand such a wonderful service is being rendered by Mother Devahuti, and he felt a lot of compassion for her. So it is the duty in a relationship. It is two ways that we make sure we pay attention to our part. Just wanted to discuss more a little bit about this word compassion. The word compassion actually comes from two root words. The word passion comes from the Latin root word pati, which means to suffer. So actually, mode of passion is mode of suffering, unknowingly. And the word come means, from the Latin word, the root word means with. So compassion means suffering with someone. When you see somebody else suffering, you feel in your own heart that suffering that the other person's feeling, and you're able to share that with him and able to help him in that particular situation. So also in a grihastha ashram, we should be very aware of each other's needs, each other's partners, and we should uh, understand and help each other out. In the sixth shloka, this goes, Kadamba Muni goes on to describe that how wonderfully he's so pleased by the wonderful way Mother Devahuti has taken up the Grihastha ashram and is excellently serving Kadamba Muni, again, not to satisfy his senses, but in order to continue his spiritual life and engage himself in Krishna consciousness. And he finds it so astonishing that most people, are so attracted to their bodies and they spend so much time taking care of their bodies. But Mother Devahuti completely neglected her own physical appearance and was 100% in service of Kadamba Muni, so he could continue advancing in Krishna consciousness. Similarly, a disciple, when he continues to serve his guru in such a fashion, and whatever the guru achieves through the help of that service, that mercy, that kripa is also transferred to the disciple. That is a wonderful thing we learn from this. Being pleased with Mother Devahuti in the next shloka, Kardama Muni says that I have achieved a lot of blessings through this process of Krishna consciousness and like to share them with you. And what blessings is he talking about? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes that the graces of the Lord are primarily two, Abhayam and Ashokam. So Abhayam means free from fear. The Prabhupada says that most of the times for material people, when we ask benedictions, we sing in our artis Sukh Sampriti Pave. We all want material wealth and prosperity. But Prabhupada says even if you have $1 million, you will not be free from fear, because your first concern will be, how much tax do I have to pay to the government? How can I save tax on this money? Right. So we fear who will take our money away. And that fear will always be there. So the real grace or mercy of God is achieved when we achieve these two qualities of abhayam and ashokam. Ashokam means fear of lamentation, fear of lamentation. And Prabhupada famously said that the two problems of material world, of people with material mentality, is they're always hankering for what they don't have, and they're lamenting for what we've lost. So they keep going on in this cycle again and again. Prabhupada also describes the wonderful the difference between transcendental happiness and material happiness. When somebody tastes the transcendental happiness, then to him the value of material happiness is completely gone away. In this regard, I remember a particular story that once the story of you may have heard different versions of it. The story of the Chintamani stone. That once there was a robber, thief. He came to a village and he realized that everybody in the village was very happy, and he was inquiring about the village and he heard that there is an ashram nearby, and in that ashram there are wonderful, saints, and they live such simple life. They live so wonderfully that everybody in the village is pleased. And he also heard that they have this wonderful stone called Chintamani stone, that whatever it touches, it will become gold. So then the thief becomes attracted to it. So he goes and he plans to steal that. So as he's hiding in the bushes, somebody notices him and he catches him and brings him to the ashram and to the saint. And they ask him what happened. What are you doing over here? Why are you here? And he apologizes and says, I heard about this Chintamani stone. I just wanted to see it once and see if it's real. And I actually came to take it. So the saint says, "Oh, that is such an easy thing. You should have just come and asked us. We would have given to you." Then he says, "Okay, you can have it. Just go to the trash can, and near the trash can, that stone is kept." So that thief became very happy. All his like material desires, could be fulfilled. So he goes there, he finds the stone, and he's walking back to the village. While he's walking back to the village, a thought occurs to him. If this stone is so valuable and can give us so much material pleasure, then why was it placed near the trash cans? That means that they have cheated me. There must be something else that they have, which I should have stolen instead of the stone, because otherwise, why would this be lying near the garbage? So then he goes back to them, to the Rishi Muni, and he tells them, no, that something is wrong. You have cheated me like that. Why is this there? Like, does it not work? What do you have that you gave this? And then they tell him that yes, we have something that's much more valuable than this. And they go on to sort of initiate him in spiritual life. Similarly, the joys of transcendental happiness are nothing compared to material happiness, and that is what Kardama Muni is wanting to offer to Mother Devahuti. Prabhupada also explains in the purport that by serving such a wonderful Vaishnava as a husband, Mother Devahuti was going to partake in all his good qualities and benedictions. Just as when we hear in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni, by wonderfully serving all the Vaishnavas, who were visiting along with his mother, he was able to partake in their prasad. He was able to gain their mercy and their good qualities. Moving on to the 8th shloka, Kardama Muni says that, again goes on to describe the value of transcendental happiness. In the purport, Prabhupada describes Prema Pumartha Mahan, to achieve love of Godhead is the highest perfection of life. And that is what Kardama Muni, as her husband, wanted to give to Mother Devahuti, is the best thing that he had to give to her, and that was love of Godhead or Krishna prema. In text 9, it is described that upon hearing the speaking of her husband, Mother Devahuti was very pleased because she was fully confident that he is a wonderful devotee, and because of his wonderful devotional qualities, being a wonderful Vaishnava, he has already achieved all that is to be achieved in the Shastras. So hearing all these blessings from him, she was wonderfully pleased. She goes on to address Kardama Muni. Mother Devahuti says, "Oh, my dear husband, best of Brahmanas, I know you have achieved perfection and you are under protection of Yoga Maya." Prabhupada explains that, as being the marginal energy potency of Krishna as Jivatma, we can either fall under Mahamaya or fall under Yogamaya, based on our inclination. Because Kardama Muni was a wonderful surrendered soul, he was being directly influenced under Yogamaya, and Mother Devahuti was acknowledging this, that he was not within the bounds of Maya Devi. She goes on to express, and Prabhupada explains here, and in his lecture, his grace, Prabhu had also explained that at this particular point, instead of directly receiving these wonderful graces from Kardama Muni, because a higher objective was immediately needed, and that is the appearance of Kapil Dev, so that the Sankhya philosophy could be expounded. Mother Devahuti requests that she would like to get into union so that they could have a child. In the Prabhupada explains the words three means expansion, and expansion is not just expansion of population, but expansion of good qualities. Because she knew that her husband had such wonderful qualities, that if they were to have a child, the child would also be so magnanimous and have wonderful qualities and be able to deliver this world. In the next shloka, it is described in the 11th shloka that how, after putting this request in front of Kardama Muni, so that they could come in union in order to beget a wonderful child, she requests him that to create a suitable atmosphere so that this particular thing can happen, because she had been so emaciated, because she was serving Kardama Muni with neglecting her own physical health, that she was not physically attractive, not in a good place. She requests Kardama Muni to use her yogic powers in order to facilitate this, so that they could come together and beget this wonderful child that's going to come. Now, oftentimes, when we look at this sexual life, we always have a negative connotation to it, and usually, for the most part, people use it, or it's described for more used for recreation than procreation. But a lot of times, these qualities, when they're used in Krishna service, are actually purifying. One example, again, that comes to my mind is of Hanuman. We always quote that anger is one of the three gates to hell: lust, anger, and greed. But Hanumanji, when he wanted to serve Lord Ram in the best possible way in Lanka, he used this quality of anger, and in order to sort of demonstrate to Ravan by burning the entire Lanka, that just if one, and these are Hanumanji's words, that just if one insignificant soldier of Lord Ram's army can do such damage, just imagine how much damage the whole army can do. And in this way, he was imploring Ravan to surrender to Lord Ram and give up Mother Sita. So he used this quality, which we oftentimes view in a negative perspective, in the service of Lord Ram. So similarly, Mother Devahuti is trying to create this favorable environment so that they could beget this wonderful child in the service of Lord Krishna. So, and then in the last shloka, it is mentioned here that how, because of this request, now Kardama Muni is going to try and fulfill this request, and he is going to create such wonderful place of residence. And we'll see what happens once this place of residence is created, how Mother Huti and Kardama Muni continue their grihastha life. I think I'll end over here. I'm sorry, I've gone a little bit over time. And if I've outspoken something, please forgive me. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.